Hello there everyone, and welcome back to the ASMR Critique. My name is Joseph, and I aim to make relaxing, comfy videos about everything under the sun, whether pop culture or classics. Now, some of you might know that I also review video games for toomuchgaming.net, and that as of this video's release, two massive platformers have just dropped, namely Crash Bandicoot 5 and Hollow Knight Silksong. I'm just kidding about that last one. They're never coming out. Ever. Oh wait, no, it's just two new Mario and Sonic games. So today we're going to be celebrating the legacy of these storied franchises. But once we've got all the champagne cork popping out of the way, we're going to put them in a steel cage together and force them to fight to the death. Or hug it out until someone starts breaking down crying, whichever comes first. So that's right, when the dust clears, there can only be one. Now, this may not appear to be the most comfy topic for an ASMR video, but I have always played games for escapism's sake first and foremost, and I'm a super fan of both franchises, so I think I'm in a pretty good position to speak from a place of neutrality. Also, sometimes there's just no better way to unwind and turn your brain off than to hop in Super Mario World or Sonic 2 and just roll with the rhythms. Of course, these two gaming icons are not directly comparable. They play very differently, and their games often have different goals. And Sonic and Mario buried the hatchet in 2007 with the release of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, didn't they? Well, if that's the case, why did they release their big 2D platformers within 3 days of each other? Riddle me that, Padawan. Was it because they wanted to kill off cinema once and for all by directly competing with Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, or steal the thunder from Blink-182's new album? Or is the whole thing just a huge psyop to distract from the fact that World War III is about to kick into high gear? Yeah, too real. But yeah, the 90s rivalry is on again. What I'll do is go through my reviews of both games, and then I'll be judging them based on a set of metrics that I'll go through later. I played both of these on the Nintendo Switch. So first off, let's talk about Sonic, since Superstars had the head start and came out first. But before I get into it, please drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment saying hi. Making this video was a heck of an endeavor, actually. So just a fair warning, in my reviews and in the video in general, I am not going to go into spoilers, but if you watch the gameplay footage, there most certainly will be spoilers, possibly up to and including some pivotal boss encounters. I'll never forget my 6th birthday. It was 1993, nippy autumn in Minneapolis, Minnesota. My aunt had bought me a present and hidden it in the living room. I eagerly scoured the room as she and my mom guided me by saying hot or cold. My heart was pounding. Underneath the black beanbag was a SEGA Genesis and a copy of Sonic the Hedgehog. Little did I know that the course of my life was about to become forever altered. That was my first ever home console, and in no time I became a Sonic superfan. I watched every show, subscribed to the monthly Archie comics, and still have my original Sonic and Tails plushies, the first ever released. So it's no exaggeration to say that the classic Genesis era Sonic games were formative for me. I explored every nook and cranny of those games. I bought the Sonic 3 strategy guide and memorized every level. And when Sonic inevitably moved into the third dimension, the games retained their charm and sense of speed, but also lost something important, something intrinsically tied to the 2D plane: simplicity. Limiting the player's movement to 2D allowed the fledgling Sonic team to accomplish their stated goal of delivering a game that would serve as both a technical showcase for the Genesis and a quote-unquote Mario killer to blow away Nintendo's seemingly unstoppable plumber. And the recent Sonic Mania showcased how rich and filled with the potential the 2D classic Sonic formula remains, at least when the right hands are there to guide it. Because 2023 has been another year of remakes, reboots, reskins, and rehashes, it's only fitting that the early 90s has returned in a big way, with the Sega Nintendo war of mascot platformers going head-to-head once more. I'm beyond pleased to report that Sonic Superstars throws down the gauntlet hard, quite literally taking over from where Sonic Mania left off, as it uses the same finely tuned physics engine perfected by Christian Whitehead. For me, the momentum-based physics and outstanding level design make this one of the best feeling Sonic games ever. inspired by the runaway success of Mania. Superstars was a collaboration between Sonic Team and Arzest, a studio founded by Naoto Oshima, who designed Sonic and Eggman and directed Sonic CD, with Oshima and longtime Sonic Team director Takashi Iizuka serving as producers. The developers had a clear goal in mind: to update classic 2D Sonic to bring the magic of Mania to a new fanbase, and hopefully create a new 2D lineage that can progress in parallel to the more experimental 3D titles. There isn't much to Superstar's story, which is done totally without dialogue and supplemented by a few animated shorts. Sonic and friends arrive on North Star Island, which conveniently hosts all the climates needed for a full assortment of Sonic zones. It's sufficient to say that Eggman is up to his old tricks, and he's hired the bounty hunter Knack the Hunter, also known as Fang the Sniper, best known for his stints on Sonic Triple Trouble and Sonic the Fighters, where he was my main. Knack takes along a mysterious new character, Trip, to mess up our heroes at Mach speed. Luckily for everyone else, Trip lives up to her name, and her charming clumsiness becomes endearing. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy are all playable this time around, with a fifth character unlocking once you've beaten the game. Sonic can drop dash, Tails can fly for a little while, Knuckles can glide and climb walls, and Amy has a double jump in her trusty hammer. They all feel great. The fact that those four are all playable sets the tone for a game that aims to take the best of every era of classic 2D Sonic, fine-tune it, and upgrade its challenges and lexicon without losing that magic touch. It's a fine line to walk, especially because Sonic Team have ditched Sonic Mania's excellent sprite work in lieu of employing 3D models, stage elements, and backgrounds, while I sorely miss the painterly retro style of Mania, and think that some of the sparser 3D models could have used a little more detail or attention paid to the lighting. I can understand the decision, as younger gamers might be turned off by the look of 2D sprites. It doesn't take a careful analysis to see that the Nintendo Switch iteration of the game is far and away the visual ugly duckling of the bunch, so I would heartily recommend getting one of the next-gen versions of Sonic Superstars if that's an option. Jun Seno and T. Lopes provide the high-energy soundtrack, which is dripping with layered synths and pulse-pounding bass lines. It's very intentionally electronic and retro, but unfortunately uneven, as some of the music sounds like placeholder MIDI. What's more, while many tracks are incredible, such as Bridge Island Act 1 and 2, the main theme, Speed Jungle, Egg Fortress Act 2, others like, the mini-boss theme, the boss themes, sound unfinished. Like the game itself, the music won't appeal to everyone, but the up-tempo beats keep the energy up, create a ton of atmosphere, and connect the new zones to the classic Genesis games. As for Sonic Superstars' 12 new zones, each one has something to recommend it, via a mix of tried and true and brand new stage elements, gimmicks, and bosses. It was exciting to see zones take stage elements from other Sonic games and infuse them with new life and personality, introducing many new badniks and obstacles. And there's nods to games like Cuphead, Fantasy Zone, and Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. The zones are anywhere from 1 to 3 acts long, but the 1-act zones are extensive, in a very welcome surprise. Almost all of the acts in the game end in a mini-boss or boss battle. I've got to gush about these bosses for a bit. 2D Sonic bosses have never been more creative, in my opinion. There's 2-phase boss battles, fights with multiple boss rooms, a lot of running fights where you'll have to be absolutely precise with your movement, auto-scrolling levels, even a shmup boss. I spent a lot of these battles on the edge of my seat, but they never felt unfair, just punishing. The final boss is one of the longest and toughest in Sonic history. And of course, there's also a hidden boss, whom you'll fight after beating the story mode again, by tackling remixed zones with the 5th character. The special stages come in 2 different forms. The levels for gaining the 7 Chaos Emeralds are excellently realized, and have Sonic swinging from nodes within a fully 3D space to chase the moving emeralds, while collecting rings to increase his available time. It's a much better version of the emerald chasing concept seen in Sonic CD. In a novel twist, the Chaos Emeralds now each give our players additional powers, such as summoning a ton of Shadow Jutsu clones to mess up enemies, or collect items from behind walls, making vines to climb higher, shooting you around the screen like a cannon, or even slowing down time. These cool powers can only be used once per Star Post checkpoint, where they'll all refresh. The spinning pinball-inspired special stages I both loved and dreaded from the first Sonic the Hedgehog game also returned, but better and more fun than ever. Their rewards are medals, which are an in-game currency that unfortunately are only used for one purpose: to unlock parts for the battle mode's robotic avatar. I was a little wary of the game's heavily advertised multiplayer, but its ease of use was quite honestly surprising to me. I played with my wife, who has long struggled at platforming games, but was able to follow along with this one for the most part. We barely made it through Yoshi's Woolly World, and she spent so much of the new Super Mario Bros. Games in a bubble that she barely got to experience them. The way Sonic Superstars handles progression was, to me, infinitely better for player engagement. Basically, if one player gets ahead, not necessarily player one, the other players disappear but can immediately return with a push of a button. This allows for players to not have to worry about dying or mashing buttons or trying to move towards the other player to be brought back. It's a simple change, but it made all the difference as she felt she had more agency and the opportunity to actually contribute in progress, especially during boss fights. The game also allows any additional players to easily drop in and out at any given time, which is something Mario could really learn from. I unfortunately didn't get to test the online battle mode, but I did play it with bots and it was pretty fun. There are 3 events, a ring collectathon, a race, and a last man standing challenge. It's frantic, but there's some party game potential there. As for other extras, I was disappointed that the game didn't have an art gallery or sound test mode. Especially coming off of Sonic Origins Plus, I feel the lack of bonus content is an unfortunate oversight. Aside from about 30% of the music and a lack of extra content, my only other complaint lies with the Nintendo Switch version's technical limitations. I'm not sure if it's my first gen launch era Switch or the game itself. Things were very stable for the most part, but there was a little bit of unforgivable slowdown. I say unforgivable because it often happened at the most intense moments, including the last phase of the final boss battle, which had me reacting to audio cues and hoping for a miracle when the on-screen image stuttered. The technical issues did trip me up more than once, but they weren't enough for me to dismiss the Switch version entirely. There are also short but noticeable loading times between zones and special stages. Whereas Sonic Mania's short, laser-focused levels, remixed Genesis zones, and Sonic 3 elements helped it feel like a direct sequel to Sonic 2, Sonic Superstars delivers on the long-forgotten promise of a true epic sequel that picks up right where Sonic 3 and Knuckles left off, bringing the charm and challenge of classic Sonic to a new generation. This isn't just a set of member berries. Superstars is an honest attempt by many of Sonic's original creators to take the best that 2D Sonic has to offer, refine the level design to perfectly suit the momentum-based gameplay, with a near-perfect, replayable blend of old and new ideas, and deliver several of the most memorable and challenging boss battles seen in a 2D Sonic game. Sonic Superstars drop-dashed straight out of the gate and busted open the act-ending roboticizer, coating my cold, bitter heart to free my bright-eyed, bushy-tailed inner child and put a big smile on his face. For a die-hard classic Sonic fan like me, its few imperfections are forgiven, but I wonder what kids who grew up with Sonic Adventure and Unleashed will think. All I know is that I want more, and I hope they take their time polishing the next one. Also, as a quick aside, I would kind of wait for a price drop. I'm not sure if I would be dropping the full 60 on this one. Final score, 4 out of 5 emeralds. Fantastic. Now, if I were to rank Sonic Superstars within the 2D Sonic pantheon, I would actually put it pretty high up there. It's probably just below Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and above Sonic Mania, with Sonic 2 clocking in at 3rd place, and Sonic 1 and CD probably tied for 4th. So next up, let's grab some power-ups and check out Super Mario Bros. Wonder. My first home console might have been the Genesis, but my first actual gaming system was a Game Boy. And Super Mario Land and Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins were my first introduction to the portly plumber. I love those games, but I was always more of a Tetris fanatic. It wasn't until I went to my buddy Chaz's house and played Super Mario Kart and Super Mario World that I realized what I was missing and got bitten by the Mario bug. My grandma bought my siblings and I an N64 in 1996, and like so many young kids, Super Mario 64 changed everything for me. I've been a huge Mario fan ever since. I have probably over $1,000 in merch and more games and stuff. Even as early as 2022, rumors had abounded about a brand new take on 2D Super Mario Bros. So when Nintendo dropped the trailer to Super Mario Bros. Wonder in the June Nintendo Direct, I was definitely intrigued. While 3D Mario has seen a lot of experimentation and evolution, the 2D platformers have kind of been like cover bands stuck performing past hits. Perhaps that statement needs some clarification. I'm a Nintendo superfan. To me, the new Super Mario Bros. Titles, and by extension, Super Mario Maker, are merely iterative of design philosophies perfected in Super Mario World. There are new elements and collectibles, sure, but the only major innovation in the formula is the 2009 Wii edition of simultaneous 4-player multiplayer, which has also grown stale. If you think about it, it's been 17 years since New Super Mario Bros. Was released on the Nintendo DS. Gosh, that game's old enough to drive. Change comes slowly, if at all, to Nintendo, and perhaps the biggest tragedy is that when they are willing to experiment, it's generally with their smaller franchises, like Star Fox or Kid Icarus, so as not to frustrate the large casual audience that demands that Mario play like Mario always has. See also Pokemon, Animal Crossing. Then when those games flop, they double down on the tried and true. I point this all out because Super Mario Bros. Wonder was advertised as a total reinvention of 2D Mario. And while indeed there are many new ideas and a lot to recommend it, at its core, Wonder is more of an evolution than a revolution, for better and for worse. Super Mario Bros. Wonder takes place in the Flower Kingdom, where our friends are welcomed by the caterpillar-ish Prince Florian, his retinue of toad-like poplins, and a host of talking flowers, which are funnily enough based upon a real-life hallucinogenic plant. But just as the royalty are rubbing elbows, big old Bowser predictably shows up to rain on their parade. With the power of the terribly named royal seeds, instead of kidnapping anyone, he merges with Prince Florian's castle. I guess you could say he kidnaps the castle. Anyway, Bowser begins to wreak havoc upon the kingdom. The largest playable cast in Super Mario Bros. History venture forth into the game's 7-ish worlds to collect Wonder Seeds and Royal Seeds and restore order to the kingdom. Except for the Yoshis and Nabbit, everyone plays the same as in the new Super Mario Bros. Games, which means perpetually holding down the dash button, variable height jumps, wall jumping, mid-air twirls for extra airtime, and ground pounding. Nabbit and the Yoshis can flutter jump and don't take enemy damage, but are unable to use power-ups. It's a fair trade-off and sure to be perfect for the little ones. For the first time ever, Princess Daisy is a playable character in a mainline Mario game, given Peach's and Zelda's more emphasized roles in recent years. Some pop culture pundits and scoopers like WDW Pro have seen this as an indication that Nintendo is going to take on Disney's monopoly on princesses. It's obvious just from looking at it, but in terms of visual flair, Super Mario Bros. Wonder is easily the slickest looking 2D Mario game. With gorgeous new character models, animations, and backgrounds, Wonder's soundtrack is equally excellent. The whimsical music ties in pleasantly with the sound effects to create a finely crafted experience. One of the coolest new additions to Super Mario Wonder are badges, which you'll equip before each level. You'll unlock or purchase these optional boons, which can give you additional abilities like jumping higher, or passive buffs like an increased dash speed, or saving you from falling down pits once per pit, etc. You can only have one equipped, so I mostly kept the parachute cap, which allows you to glide down after a jump, but there's this amazing vine shooting ability that allows you to basically hookshot onto walls. The game features badge challenges to test your mastery of the movement abilities. Players averse to exploration might enjoy the sensor badge, which provides visual cues whenever you're near a collectible coin or wonder seed, and basically trivializes the challenge of finding out all of the game's already easy to find secrets. Super Mario Bros. Wonder boasts 4 power-ups: the heavily advertised elephant form that can shoot water and knock enemies upside the head, the drill suit that can burrow in both ceilings and floors and attack vertically, a bubble suit that shoots out bubbles you can use for jumping, trapping enemies, or acquiring items, and the classic fire suit. While I was missing various series staples, I can appreciate the focused approach, as the game also features KO Arena levels, where you'll pick 2 power-ups and face off against waves of enemies. Overall, aside from the drill suit, which was pretty darn cool, I kinda thought the power-ups were a disappointment, unlike the game's main mechanic. Though Wonder Seeds are not just Super Mario Bros. Wonder's main selling point, they're one of the freshest and best ideas Nintendo has introduced to Mario in decades. Once in each of the game's levels, you'll either stumble upon or have to unearth one of these transformative glowing seeds, and you'll never know what to expect. The Wonder Seeds fundamentally alter the level. Mario might turn into a slime dude capable of climbing walls and ceilings. Background elements can become sentient and start moving around. A water level may flip upside down with water filling up the top half. Or in perhaps my favorite twist, the level might turn into a top-down 2D game, a la The Legend of Zelda, where you'll have to walk to dodge various obstacles. The only issue I had with the Wonder Seed segments is that they were often too short. On average, they might be about a quarter or a third of the length of the entire level. I sometimes felt that they ended just when they were getting interesting. While Super Mario Bros. Wonder was advertised on the strength of its psychedelic level designs, I must sadly report that with the exception of the delightful Wonder Seed segments, I found most levels to be a constant source of deja vu, which is a shame because I love the new power-ups, enemies, obstacles, interactive tulips, talking flowers, and upgraded visuals, which add a ton of character to Mario and Friends. Despite all of the visual refinements, I found myself blazing through the levels. In fact, they may be the easiest mainline Mario game ever. Even collecting items is simplified, as you can grab a collectible coin and die without losing it. It got to the point where I felt I was playing the game on autopilot. I understand this is a controversial opinion, but to me, the Mario series is in many ways a victim of its own success. Video games have evolved a lot since 1985's Super Mario Bros., which was designed to eat quarters, but not always for the better. Nintendo's family and casual audiences are its bread and butter, and that includes kids who've grown up on iPads and maybe new to controllers and precise platformers. There's no disrespect meant to anyone, but two recent trends I've noticed in Nintendo games are a general lack of challenge and a proliferation of bite-sized bits of content over longer gauntlets. I loved Super Mario Odyssey, but I get the criticisms. YouTube critic Joseph Anderson made some valid points in his video essay on that game regarding its lack of difficulty and insistence on providing nothing more than a collection of self-contained bite-sized challenges, thus creating a positive feedback loop that provided the illusion of progression in a game that feels and controls perfectly well, but really doesn't ask much from the player. But whereas Super Mario Odyssey, like the Galaxy games, got more difficult later on, I personally found Super Mario Bros. Wonder to be an absolute cakewalk. I beat it in 2 days, I barely used any badges, I didn't die to a single boss, and I fully cleared most levels the first time around, only going back to pick up a missed collectible coin or alternate flagpole. Your mileage may vary, but I was not challenged once throughout Wonder's main playthrough. To be fair, there is a special world, and the game has over a dozen or so unforgiving 5-star challenge levels, but these are all optional. I found these challenges to be the best parts of the game by far, but then again, I'm also the kind of guy who loved the most difficult and punishing levels of Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine. Not everyone plays Mario for the challenge, though, and Wonder is not only an excellent introduction to the franchise for younger fans, but it massively improves the multiplayer experience. I distinctly remember playing 4-player New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe on Switch with my nieces and nephews, their choice, and seeing how heated and frustrated they got whenever someone would mess up or get in each other's way. I had to calm them down by explaining that the game could have been designed better. It was easy to mess up in those games by either failing to get in a bubble, or jumping on or interfering with another player, accidentally grabbing a power-up someone else needed, or straight up just being at the wrong place at the wrong time. Not to mention picking someone up and throwing them into the lava. Super Mario Bros. Wonder addresses most of these local co-op concerns, but there's room for improvement. Lives are now shared between all players. There's no jumping on, picking up, or bumping into fellow players, which reduces the overall chaos, but also removes all direct interactivity between on-screen avatars. You won't die if you disappear off-screen without turning into a bubble, but the game does put an artificial timer on your ghost when you return, and you must move to a surviving player within 5 seconds or lose a life. One item at a time can be stored and summoned by player 1. However, there's no way for someone to drop in or out of a level in progress. You've got to go back to the world map. It's kind of a commitment. Wonder also has many online elements, and they're mostly passively cooperative. First off, in friend races, you'll be able to join your friends in levels they're currently playing. It's not true co-op, as you'll appear to them as a sort of ghostly shadow, but you can offer items and revive them if necessary, and compare results at the end of the level. During normal play, if you're online, you'll be able to see other players' ghostly impressions from past runs. If you die, you'll turn into a ghost, but can be revived either by other players or their standees. Wonder's standees are self-standing cutouts that can be bought in shops and placed 1 per level. In a mechanic befitting a Strand-type game, the standees will help online players to revive themselves if their ghosts fly to them. Online play spoils each level's secrets, further blunting the game's replay value. But the collectible coins and Wonder Seeds are usually super easy to find anyway. The exciting Wonder Seed mechanic, much improved visual flair, tightly polished levels, and charming personality make this game a winner on paper. However, there's just no sugarcoating the fact that despite all it has going for it, Super Mario Bros. Wonder is just another gimmick-filled iteration on the Super Mario World formula. While I can appreciate the polish and effort put into the title to make it fun for everyone, I can't help but feel that it's too short and too easy, and I thought it an odd decision to only make maybe about 15 or so truly challenging levels when a good number of Mario fans are experienced gamers. Even just the addition of multiple difficulty modes or a boss rush would have softened the blow a little bit. But while I yearn for a version of this game that was meatier, more challenging and packed with actually difficult bosses, I can recognize that kids like my young nieces will fall head over heels in love with Super Mario Bros. Wonder because it truly is full of entrancing visual wonder, and its simplicity is unlikely to cause household tensions between ambitious older siblings and confused younger ones. Die-hard fans of the format will also find a ton to love here. I can only hope that Nintendo builds on Wonder's fresher elements and provides more variety and challenges for the inevitable sequel. Score: 4 out of 5 stars. In terms of ranking within the 2D Mario series, I think I have to put Wonder below Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, possibly even below the first new Super Mario Bros. On the Wii. That's if we're just going by console releases, of course. If we're counting Super Mario 3D Land, I'd probably rank that over Wonder too. It's still a really solid Mario game, but I just feel it's lacking that extra something that would put it into the top pantheon. Now, you might have noticed that I rated both Sonic Superstars and Super Mario Bros. Wonder 4 out of 5 stars. I think that's a fair rating for both of them, because both games have their strengths and weaknesses, and the other day at work, I was in the middle of chainsawing a huge log when I stopped to think about it and realized how it's actually kind of funny how certain things Mario excels at, Sonic's lacking in, and vice versa. So to make things interesting and attempt to break this tie, let's get a little more into the weeds with the comparisons, and see what we can come up with as fair criteria for picking a winner. And of course, depending on who wins, I'm going to change my shirt. Mario wins, here's my Mario shirt, and here's my Sonic shirt. So to make things interesting and attempt to break this tie, let's get a little more into the weeds with the comparisons and see what we can come up with as fair criteria for picking a winner. So the criteria I've come up with are as follows. Presentation, which I'm defining as the surface level stuff. Graphics, music, sound design, etc. Novelty Factor. These are the new gameplay elements that the game is introducing to the series. For Super Mario Bros. Wonder, these would be the Wonder Seeds and power-ups. For Sonic Superstars, it's the Emerald powers and the new ways the special stages are implemented. Gameplay. For gameplay, I'm considering the overall gameplay, which includes the controls, the physics, and the level design, and how all of those elements work together. Performance. Performance is simply how well does the game run? Were there any glitches? What types of technical hiccups or loading screens might you expect? Challenge. Challenge is self-explanatory. I'm counting not just the difficulty of the levels, but especially the bosses and other in-game challenges. This category is really important to me. Value. Value means replay value, but also bang for your buck. We're talking stuff to do after the story mode, post-game, how long you might expect to spend on the game. And last, we have multiplayer. So for this category, I'm going to consider both local multiplayer and the online features, which are both advertised aspects of the games. So like Gandalf said, 7 stars, 7 stones, and 1 white tree. So therefore, 7 categories which to judge these 2 games. And in the end, only one game is going to walk away as the king of Gondor. Presentation. Now this is perhaps the easiest one to judge. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is clearly the most gorgeous looking 2D Mario game ever, whereas I think that Sonic Generations better captures what I think 2D Sonic should look like with 3D graphics. It's not for a lack of trying. I love Superstar's clean style, and the animated cutscenes have a ton of nostalgia for classic Sonic fans who remember Sonic CD's intro and the old school movie, but just from a gameplay standpoint, there is no comparison. Wonder has tons of incredible animations that just add a ton of character. Sometimes you'll catch your character's eyes moving to see what's going on, or you'll just stop to marvel at the beauty of the background. Also, while Sonic Superstar's soundtrack is hit or miss, Super Mario Wonder's music, while it doesn't achieve the same highs, never took me out of the experience. Point Mario. Novelty Factor. Super Mario Bros. Wonder introduces an amazing new mechanic, the Wonder Seed transformations, and these psychedelic sequences really bring the whimsy and charm, but they aren't always on screen, and pretty much all of them are super easy to get through. The game also introduces badges which fundamentally transform the gameplay, except that you can only equip one at a time, and a lot of them are only situationally useful. Wonder also has 3 new power-ups, but in my opinion, the only really incredible one is the drill hat. Whereas Wonder might appear to have the advantage here, Sonic Superstars also introduces the Emerald powers, which add a whole new dimension to how your characters can interact with the environments. Superstars also has a brand new and, in my opinion, fantastic and balanced mechanic for the special stages, where you're chasing down the Chaos Emeralds in 3D space, and a ton of the original Sonic 1-type special stages, where you're hunting down medals. These are all excellent new mechanics between these 2 games, so whichever ones you like more really come down to personal preference, so I'm calling it a draw. Gameplay. Alright, this is where I know I'm going to have people coming at me in the comments section. I'm taking the gloves off because, to me, as I've said before, I think that 2D Mario's gameplay is rather stale. I am hesitant to say the same regarding 3D Mario because at least they try to keep it fresh, provide a good assortment of challenging sections. For instance, Bowser's Castle in Super Mario Odyssey, or a bunch of the later stages in Super Mario Galaxy 2. But really, I think everything new about Wonder's gameplay can accurately be classified as a set of gimmicks built upon Super Mario World's fundamentals. Meanwhile, Sonic Superstars represents a huge leap in the quality of level design, marrying the best elements of Sonic CD's fast-paced labyrinths and Sonic 3 and Knuckles' epic long levels. They strike a perfect balance for perhaps the first time ever, probably the best Sonic has played too since the game was built from the ground up to work with the Sonic Mania physics engine, which in my opinion plays even better than the Genesis games. And unlike Sonic Mania, Superstars doesn't reuse any old stages, but rather combines stage elements from all across Sonic's history to make something where you never know what challenges lie around the corner, but you're able to immediately comprehend what the game wants of you. And from there, it's just a matter of precise execution. Mario doesn't quite match up in this regard because the field of view is so wide that the game practically plays itself. Then there's the sensor badge for anything you miss. And maybe because some people complained about hidden stuff not being so obvious in New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, the secrets are almost always in plain sight in Wonder. So this point goes to Sonic. Performance. Now, this is kind of an easy layup for Mario since the Switch is his home turf and Nintendo games are often the best looking titles on Nintendo systems. They've got all the optimizing tricks, they built the hardware, it's just how it is. On most other platforms, Sonic Superstars runs at a steady 60 frames per second, and for the most part that's true on the Switch, except for a few painful moments during my playthrough. Even if the frame rate were perfect though, Sonic Superstars graphics dip in quality on the Switch in comparison to other platforms, but I don't know if it's fair to compare apples to oranges like that. Like, obviously Sonic plays better on a PS5 or Xbox Series X. Point Mario. Next up, challenge. Now, I'm what you might call a hardcore gamer bro. I like them Souls games raw and wriggling, unpatched, no summons, on a DDR dance pad, blindfolded. I actually beat Crash 4 and 100%ed Hollow Knight. Suffice to say, I tend to expect a certain level of challenge from games to keep me invested. As I've said, I think Wonder probably has like 15 actually challenging levels. I also thought it was weird how they kind of just said, okay, we're going to make these optional levels hard, but the rest of the game, super easy, barely an inconvenience. On the other hand, Sonic Superstars has a more consistent challenge. Its levels have challenging elements, both versions of the special stages can be tough, the bosses are challenging, and trying to no-hit any given stage and get high scores is also pretty tough. But you can vary that challenge by using the Emerald powers, and that first one especially, the Shouted Jutsu clones, will pretty much guarantee 1 or 2 hits on any boss if you time it right. I don't think I've ever used it against a boss, but if you're struggling, it's good to know that you have that option. It's like a Spirit Ash in Elden Ring. The game is designed to be challenging, but you can choose to make things easier for yourself. That's a problem I have with Wonder, honestly. It's like they designed the game to only be fun for kids and games journalists.
Especially the kind of games journalists who can't get past the Cuphead tutorial.
We know Nintendo used to be better at this. Come on guys, at least make a hard mode or something. Real quick, I just want to point out that there are people out there, and I'm not going to name drop, but I've seen at least 3 videos. YouTubers out there complaining that Sonic bosses quote-unquote stall for time, that it takes several minutes to beat them. Newsflash guys, that used to be standard for classic 2D bosses. Play a game sometime, man. Some people actually enjoy the challenge of having to dodge and maybe missing a window or two because you weren't quick enough. It keeps us on the edge of our seat. Remind us we have blood pumping through our veins. Weak men make hard times. Just saying. Point Sonic. Value. Now we're neck and neck again. I'm sorry to say that both Superstars and Wonder really don't have too much to offer in terms of replay value and post-game content. Superstars has that unlockable 5th character with a second story to play through once you beat the game with remix levels. And there's also the fact that Superstars has more alternate routes, and that playing the game as Tails or Knuckles allows you to see more of these levels and uncover more secrets. Plus, the game's acts are meant to be replayable. Super Mario Bros. Wonder has the special world, which you can actually access during your playthrough via certain levels, and it'll probably take you several hours to fully collect all of the collectible pink coins. Of course, you can also experiment with the badges to your heart's content, but as for bang for the buck, to be totally honest, I really don't think either of these games are worth $60. Maybe 40, maybe 50, but they're just too short, and with too little to do once you beat the main story and not enough extras. Sorry, but to quote Blink-182, new tank of gas is a treasure to me. If you were already suckered into buying Nintendo Online or lucky enough to be on a family plan, you can just play Super Mario World and Sonic 2 for free and maybe trick yourself into just imagining that you're playing the new games. So until DLC proves me otherwise, that's another draw. Well, that leaves us with another tie. Jeez. Well, for me at least, these games are evenly matched so far, so seems the only thing left to do is turn the last category into a
sudden death match.
Multiplayer. Right, folks, this is the tiebreaker. I've saved the most contentious and least predictable one for last because it's close. Real close. For multiplayer, I have to look at both the local co-op and online play. For local play, while I see the argument for the other side, I really need to tip the hat to Sonic for two main reasons. First of all of Sonic's characters play differently, which adds another dimension to exploration and combat. Secondly, I really love the drop in and drop out multiplayer and being able to pop right back into the action without having to move your whiny little ghost icon around to the surviving player. It's such a breath of fresh air. You have no idea. Some may call it an afterthought, but I think that puts it over the edge. And for online play, it's kind of close. Battle mode was a pretty fun gauntlet offline, but online, I imagine it's more fun, except that most matches will probably have a bunch of bots in them. Super Mario Bros. Wonder, on the other hand, offers up a lot of novel ways that players can indirectly interact online while playing the same level, or set up standees to help others revive or guide them towards secrets. Taking a page from Kojima there. So Sonic's online multiplayer is competitive, whereas Mario's is cooperative, and to get the most out of it, you'll need to add people via friend code. These modes can't really be directly compared, so neither comes out on top. So online is a draw, which means, drumroll please, that Sonic wins. Congratulations, old pal. You've finally done it. Dig up that old hatchet you buried in 2007 and hack that old plumber to pieces. Or don't. Yeah, you know you're way too cool for that. The 2024 Paris Olympics are right around the corner, so save that energy for the breakdancing, which is apparently now an Olympic sport, and watch out for those bed bugs. Anyway, I'm sure a bunch of you watching right now are all waiting to destroy me in the comment section, unsubscribing, trying to dox me, the works. To that, I say,
catch me outside, how about that?
But no, please, let's keep it civil for the memory of the Dreamcast. I said what I said. I'm gonna die on this hill. I'm a huge Nintendo fan. I made a 200-page long PowerPoint trying to help them maximize profits in their Universal parks. And since I've got you here, please don't leave. Let me make one last plea to both Nintendo and its diehard fans. Nintendo, please, just realize your hardcore fans feel left in the dust. Throw us a bone once in a while. F-Zero GX remaster, some Metroid Prime 4 news, new Star Fox game, something, man. And Nintendo fans, you're not doing anyone any favors by constantly defending the company. When they make a mistake, or when they make something that's stale or dumb, or a game that you can beat while half asleep, like I did with Super Mario Bros. Wonder, just hold them accountable. Just saying. One last thing. I'm no good at being noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the opinions of one tiny little YouTuber don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world. And if you got that reference, be a pal. Drop a sub, give me a like and subscribe, and let the whole world know your thoughts on Sonic Superstars and Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Next up, I might drop my reading of Night on the Galactic Railway, or if I get any requests, I'll review the new Blink-182 album. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll be back next time. Hope to hear from you in the comments. Take care.